Good morning, students. Saira, myself Sridevi Rao, will be starting with a new chapter today, which is your second lesson, which is life processes in living organism, part 1. We have already finished with the first chapter and the fourth. Now we'll be starting with the second lesson, that is life processes in living organism, part 1. Children, now let us start. Now, first, can you tell me what are living organisms made up of? I know all of you all know living organisms are made up of cells. Okay, when group of cells join together, what do they form? They form tissue. You all know, we have learnt in standard 9 about tissue, definition of tissue, everything we have learnt. So when group of tissue join together, they form organ. What do they form? Organ. Can you name some of the organs, children? Like the heart, stomach, lungs, then brain, many organs are there, you all know. So the different organs in our body are working in a group. You all know they work in coordination. We have learnt last year also about this. Working in a group so as to smoothly carry out the life processes. Because you all know all the life organs in our body are working in coordination. We have learnt about all about coordination last year itself. So what is meant by organ system? Okay, when group of organs working together to perform a specific function, it is called an organ system. Can you repeat? Group of organs working together to perform a specific function is called an organ system. Okay, so it is called an organ system. Now we'll see how this energy, we'll see in the organism, how living organism and life processes, we'll just see. Now for the functioning of various systems, energy is required. Can you name some of the systems, children? Various systems I told you. Can you name some of the systems in our body? Circulatory system, respiratory system, endocrine system, so many other systems, circulatory system, excretory system. We have learnt about reproductive system also. We are going to learn about this in this year. We are going to learn. So along with the system, even the external and internal organs are joined together and they work in harmony. They are work in coordination with the systems. And for the proper life processes, for the functioning of life processes, this all the systems work in coordination. What do we need for the functioning of all these systems? For functioning of all these systems, energy is required. Without energy, the functions will not, the systems will not function properly. From where do we get energy? You all know. We get energy from the food. Energy is in the form of carbohydrates, proteins, lipids. All these are main sources of energy and we get it from the food. Now we get energy not only from the foodstuffs but also from the oxygen. Okay, so not only the foodstuffs, even the oxygen is also needed for the energy production. And what happens to this foodstuffs and oxygen? This food, the useful materials from the foodstuff, not the full foodstuff, the essential materials from the foodstuff after digestion, and the oxygen is carried to all the cells of our body through the circulatory system, and it goes to the mitochondria and where the energy is stored. Okay, then along with the system, there are other life processes contributes in its own way in the process of energy production. Along with this system, all the they give their contribute in their own way for the energy production. So for functioning of the system, what is needed? Energy is needed. And how do we get this energy? I told you we get from from the plants. How do we all know plants prepare their own food and they utilize some of the food for themselves. They use it for their growth and remaining is stored in the fruits, vegetables, leaves, etc. And when we consume these fruits, vegetables, leaves of the plants, we get this energy and we get the nutrients we give like carbohydrate, proteins, fats we get from this plants. So when the store it in the leaves, fruits, vegetables, and the stored energy, we are taking it and it is in the form of carbohydrates, fats, proteins, minerals, vitamins, etc. And can you name some of the carbohydrate rich food, children? How much energy we are going to see in this? We get carbohydrates from milk, cereals, and jaggery, vegetables, fruits. From all this we get carbohydrate. And how much energy we get? We get 4 kilocalorie energy per gram of carbo. How many kilocalories we get? 4 kilocalorie energy we get from 1 gram of carbohydrate. So carbohydrate is very essential for production of energy. But there are, how it is stored, I told you, it is stored in the mitochondria in the form of ATP. You can see here, they form in the form of the energy packets. They are formed in that is called as ATP. What is the full form of ATP? It is adenosine triphosphate. From the name itself, you can make out how many phosphate groups will be here. Triphosphates. So there will be 3 phosphate groups, and adenosine, it is a nitrogenous compound. Adenosine is a nitrogenous compound along with a pentose sugar that has got a ribose. That is a pentose sugar which is called, it is ribose, and 3 phosphate groups are present. So this energy is stored in the bonds, between the bonds of the phosphate groups. So when the body needs energy, the bonds are broken and you get the energy. So this is the structure of ATP, that it has got adenine, nitrogenous base, adenine, and a sugar, that is a ribose sugar, which and 3 phosphate bonds. And when you want energy, the phosphate bonds are broken and you get energy, and energy is released and for the body. Now let us learn about the next system, how we get energy from that, which is the respiratory system. Children, you might be familiar with the picture. This is the human respiratory system. We have learnt about this last year, and you know there are organs, that is nose, trachea, lungs, alveoli, bronchi. All these are the structures of respiratory system. This picture is there in your textbook. It can come for your exam to label it. So okay, now we'll see how energy is produced from this respiratory system. For energy, the respiration, there are 2 levels of respiration. One is the body level respiration, and next is the cellular level. From the name itself you can make out, one is in the cells, another one is in the body level. So what is body level respiration? We'll see. Oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange between body and surrounding. That is our normal breathing. When we breathe in air, we take in oxygen and we give out carbon dioxide to the surrounding. That is the body level respiration. And what is cellular level respiration? The foodstuffs are oxidized either with or without the help of oxygen. That means there can be 2 types. With the help of oxygen also they can oxidize, and without the help of oxygen also they can oxidize. We'll see that now, the 2 levels also. Okay. Now for obtaining energy, what happens in the cell? The glucose is oxidized step by step. Glucose is what? Carbohydrate. Okay, the carbohydrate, it is a type of carbohydrate. What happens in the cell is the glucose is oxidized step by step in the cells. I told you it is stored in the cells in the form, all the energy is stored in the cells in the mitochondria. What happens in the mitochondria, in the cell, inside the cell? The glucose is oxidized step by step. This is called as cellular respiration. So what in the exam, if it comes, what is cellular respiration? You can write oxygen is oxidized step by step in the cells. This is called as cellular respiration. Now, this cellular respiration also, there are 2 types of cellular respiration. And there are 2 methods of cellular respiration. One is aerobic respiration, in which oxygen is involved. That is, in the presence of oxygen. We have learned about aerobic respiration. And what is anaerobic respiration? In this, it is without the help of oxygen, as the food is oxidized in the absence of oxygen. There are two levels, two methods. One is aerobic respiration, another one is anaerobic respiration. This aerobic, we are going to learn in detail about aerobic and anaerobic. In this session, we learn about only aerobic respiration. Now, this aerobic respiration, there are three steps in this aerobic respiration. The in aerobic respiration, glucose is oxidized in three steps. What are the three steps? One is glycolysis, second one is tricarboxylic acid cycle, or it is called as TCA cycle, and third one is electron transfer chain reaction. What are the steps in the aerobic respiration, children? This is very important. Even in your examination point of view, it can come in 3 marks question. What are the three steps in aerobic respiration? One is glycolysis, second one is tricarboxylic acid cycle, and third one is electron transfer chain reaction. Now in detail we learn step by step what is glycolysis. This glycolysis occurs in cytoplasm. Where it is occur? Nucleus is in the center. Outside the nucleus, the liquid-like substance is called as a cytoplasm. This glycolysis occurs in the cytoplasm. What happens in glycolysis? The molecule of glucose is oxidized step by step in this process. In the first step itself, the oxidation of glucose starts in this first step. And what do you get from that? You get two molecules each of pyruvic acid, ATP, NADH2 and water. What do we get? Pyruvic acid, ATP, adenosine triphosphate. We learned the structure now. And next is your NADH2. NADH2 means full form is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. You have to learn the full form also. So what do you get? Two molecules each of pyruvic acid, ATP, NADH2 nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide and water are formed in the first step. Okay, this pyruvic acid, two molecules of pyruvic acid, which is then it is converted into acetyl coenzyme A. Okay, this molecules of pyruvic acid are converted into what? Acetyl coenzyme A. Then at the end what you will get? You get two molecules of NADH2 and two molecules of carbon dioxide are released in this process. So at the end of glycolysis, what is released? Two molecules of NADH2 and two molecules of carbon dioxide are released in this process. So understood glycolysis? Now let us go to the next step, that is tricarboxylic acid cycle, or it is called as the TCA cycle. In this cycle, in this step, we have in the previous glycolysis we are getting acetyl coenzyme A, two molecules of acetyl coenzyme A. So both the molecules of acetyl coenzyme A, where does it go? It enters the mitochondria. The first step glycolysis was in the cytoplasm, but this tricarboxylic acid or TCA cycle, where does it take place? In the mitochondria. What happens in this step? Acetyl part of acetyl coenzyme A is completely oxidized. What happens? Acetyl part of acetyl coenzyme A is completely oxidized and molecules of water, carbon dioxide, NADH2 and FADH2 are formed. What all? Water, carbon dioxide, NADH2 and FADH2 are derived. What is FADH2? Flavin adenine dinucleotide. Okay, it is flavin adenine dinucleotide. So these are formed in the second step, that is TCA cycle. Now let us learn the third step, which is electron transfer chain reaction. What is it name? Electron transfer chain reaction. So the what all takes place in this? The molecules of NADH2 and FADH2, which is formed in the previous step, only those two will participate in this electron transfer chain reaction. So, when which all molecules? Molecules of NADH2 and FADH2 participate in the electron transfer chain reaction, and what do we get? We get 3 molecules of ATP are obtained from each NADH2 molecules. How many molecules? 3 molecules from each NADH2 molecule, and we get 2 molecules of ATP are obtained from each FADH2 molecule. So energy is released from each NADH2, 3 molecules of ATP, and from each FADH2, 2 molecules of ATP are released, and at the end of aerobic respiration, what do we get? And glucose is completely oxidized, and at the end you get molecules of carbon dioxide and water are produced along with energy. What do we get at the end? Energy, water and carbon dioxide. These three are produced at the end of the aerobic respiration. Okay, children. Now let us revise. We learned about the 3 steps of aerobic respiration. Now let us revise what we learned. We learned about organ system. And what is organ system? Can you recollect? It is the group of organs working together to perform a specific function is called an organ system. We learned about organ system, and we also learned for functioning of various organ systems what is needed? Energy. From where do we get energy? We get energy from the plants, okay, and from the foodstuffs mainly. And from the foodstuff we get energy. Energy is in the form of what? Carbohydrates, proteins, lipids are the main sources of energy. We learnt about that, and we also learnt about it is not only the foodstuffs are necessary for the energy production, but what else is needed? Oxygen is also necessary for energy production. Okay. Then we also learned that plants produce the food. Plants produce fruits, vegetables, etc., and they utilize some of the for themselves, some of the food for themselves, and the remaining are stored in the fruits, vegetables, leaves, etc. And when we consume, then what we get? The energy, and it is stored in the form of carbohydrates, proteins, fats, etc. And how much energy is stored we will see, and we get how much kilocalorie energy? We get 4 kilocalorie energy per 1 gram of carbohydrate, children. So we have to take lot of carbohydrate because we get a lot of energy from here. What are the rich food which are food rich in carbohydrate? We saw milk, jaggery, fruits, vegetables, cereals like wheat, rice, jawar, bajra. So many cereals are there which are rich in carbohydrate. In the later we will learn how much energy we get from protein, how much amount of energy we get from fats, etc. We learn it in the next one. Now we saw this energy is stored in the form of what? ATP. What is ATP? Adenosine triphosphate. So adenosine means it is a nitrogenous compound, adenosine, and it is attached to a sugar, pentose sugar, which is ribose, and it has got 3 phosphate groups. Okay, so the energy it is called as the energy currency of the cell. What is ATP called? I left off this point. What is ATP called? Energy currency of the cell. It is called as the energy currency of the cell because it stores the energy. It is this stored energy is called as because of it is called as the energy currency of the cell. Then we saw about the other energy system, how from the respiration how we are going to get the energy. And we saw there are 2 types of respiration. We saw one is the body level respiration, and next one is the cellular level. What is body level? Our normal breathing, that is taking in oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide to the surrounding, is called as body level respiration. What is cellular level respiration? Foodstuffs are oxidized either with oxygen or without oxygen. So this is cellular level. So we will define it. So for energy production, the glucose, that is a type of carbohydrate, is oxidized step by step in the cells. This is called as cellular respiration. Then what else did we learn? We learnt about there are two types of cellular respiration. One is aerobic respiration where oxygen is involved, and second one we learnt is anaerobic. We will learn in detail in the next lecture about anaerobic also. Anaerobic respiration where oxygen is not involved. Then we saw we are going to learn in detail about what we learned today was aerobic respiration. We learnt about 3 steps of aerobic respiration. What was that? Glycolysis, tricarboxylic acid and electron transfer chain. So in glycolysis, what is there? Where does it occur? In cytoplasm. What do we get? At the end we get 2 molecules of pyruvic acid, 2 molecules of ATP, 2 molecules of NADH2 and water. Okay. Then this 2 molecules of pyruvic acid, what happens? It is converted into what? Acetyl coenzyme A. And in the end what do we get? 2 molecules of NADH2 and 2 molecules of carbon dioxide released in this process of glycolysis. So what in the question, in the exam it can come, and the end of glycolysis what is released. So you have to write 2 molecules of NADH2 and 2 molecules of CO2 are released in this process. Then next we learnt about this TCA cycle, a tricarboxylic cycle, and both the molecules of acetyl coenzyme enters the mitochondria, and the acetyl part of acetyl coenzyme A is completely oxidized. And what do we get from here? Molecules of water, carbon dioxide, NADH2 and FADH2. What is FADH2? Flavin adenine dinucleotide. Okay, are derived. Now these two only, NADH2 and FADH2, take part in the third one, which is electron transfer chain reaction. And from each NADH2, how many ATPs are formed? 3 molecules of ATP. And from FADH2, how many molecules of ATP are formed? 2 molecules of ATP are formed from this. And from this, the glucose is completely oxidized, and you will get what all? Molecule of carbon dioxide, water, and energy is produced. So we saw how energy is produced in this process of glycolysis, tricarboxylic acid cycle, or it is TCA cycle or Krebs cycle. We will learn that in detail, the names of it later. And this third step and the third one, electron transfer chain. We saw how at the end what is got? Carbon dioxide, water, and along with energy in the form of what? ATP. Children, hope you have understood. This is an important lesson. So learn up to this. How much I have taught you, you learn. Next we will see in the next video. Thank you, children.